An astonishing history of a building that not only shaped American politics, but also became a global symbol of power and authority. Yes, we're talking about the White House. Did you know that this magnificent mansion was once built on swampy land, constructed through the hard labor of enslaved African Americans and European immigrants? Or that it was set on fire by British troops, only to rise again like a phoenix? Come along as we journey together through every secret, every transformation, and every remarkable moment of this great symbol of democracy. Hello, viewers. Welcome once again to History with Nasir, with a brand new and exciting video. The Stone Heart of the Republic, the complete history of the White House. Chapter 1, The Vision of a Capital, 1790 to 1792. The story of the White House does not begin with a building, but with a compromise. In 1790, the Residence Act authorized President George Washington to select a permanent location along the Potomac River for the federal government. Washington, a surveyor by profession, envisioned a presidential mansion that would reflect the dignity of the new republic without the excessive grandeur of European monarchies. In 1792, a design competition was announced. Although several prominent figures submitted proposals, including Thomas Jefferson, who entered anonymously, the winning design came from Irish-born architect James Hoban. Hoban's design was heavily influenced by Leinster House in Dublin, a prime example of the neoclassical Palladian style. Chapter 2, Blood, Sweat, and Sandstone, 1792 to 1800. Construction began on October 13, 1792. The logistical challenges were immense as the site was essentially a swampy wilderness. The workforce. Contrary to many early history books, the White House was largely built by enslaved African Americans and European immigrants, mostly Irish and Scottish. Enslaved workers quarried sandstone from Aquia Creek in Virginia and transported the massive blocks by boat to the Capitol. The first residence. George Washington supervised the construction but never lived there. John Adams became the first president to move into the unfinished, damp, and drafty mansion on November 1, 1800. His wife, Abigail Adams, wrote to her daughter that there was a shortage of firewood and she had to dry laundry in the unfinished East Room. Chapter 3, Flames and the Phoenix, 1801 to 1817. The third president, Thomas Jefferson, introduced the first major changes. Working with architect Benjamin Latrobe, he added small wings on the east and west sides to conceal stables and storage areas. However, the most defining moment of the 19th century came during the War of 1812. In August 1814, British troops entered Washington, D.C., dined on a meal prepared for 40 guests in the president's house, and then set the building on fire. Rescue. First Lady Dolly Madison became a national heroine when she ensured the rescue of the large Lansdowne portrait of George Washington, removing it from its frame before fleeing. Reconstruction. James Hoban was called back to rebuild the mansion. To hide the black scorch marks left by fire and smoke, the exterior sandstone was coated with thick layers of white lead-based paint. Although it had been informally called the White House before this event firmly cemented the name in public consciousness. Chapter 4, Victorian Expansion, 1824 to 1901. As the United States expanded across the continent, the White House evolved from a solitary mansion into a symbol of a rising global power. Porticos. The famous north and south porticos, the grand columns that define the building's iconic appearance, were added in 1824 and 1829. Technological milestones. In 1833, running water was installed for the first time. In 1848, gas lighting replaced candles and oil lamps. In 1891, electricity was installed during President Benjamin Harrison's term. Harrison and his wife were so afraid of electric shocks that they rarely touched the switches themselves and often slept with the lights on. The Civil War. Under Abraham Lincoln, the White House became a military headquarters. Lincoln often spent nights in the telegraph room, now the library, receiving frontline updates. Members of the public and soldiers frequently walked through the halls, sometimes cutting pieces of curtains as souvenirs. Chapter 5. The West Wing and World Wars, 1901 to 1945. In 1901, Theodore Roosevelt officially named the residence the White House. Due to lack of space for his 6 children and staff, he ordered the construction of the West Wing in 1902. The Oval Office. In 1909, President William Howard Taft moved the president's office to the center of the West Wing and designed it in an oval shape, creating what would become the most famous office in the world. World War II. Under Franklin D. Roosevelt, the White House was modified for security. Blackout curtains were installed, and a bomb shelter was constructed beneath the East Wing, the predecessor of today's Presidential Emergency Operations Center, PEOC. Chapter 6. The Truman Reconstruction, 1948 to 1952. By the late 1940s, the White House was structurally unsound. Years of rushed repairs and heavy plumbing had weakened the wooden framework. In 1948, the East Room chandelier began to sway, and Margaret Truman's piano fell through the floor. President Harry Truman oversaw a complete reconstruction of the building. Structural overhaul. Every interior wall, floor, and staircase was removed. Only the 4 exterior stone walls remained, supported by a massive steel framework. Modernization. A 2-level basement was added, along with central air conditioning. The Truman balcony was also built on the south portico, despite public criticism that it would ruin the historic view. Chapter 7. The Museum Era, 1961 to 2000. Jacqueline Kennedy transformed the White House from a purely administrative building into a living museum. She established the White House Historical Association and worked to recover original furniture and artwork from previous administrations. During the Cold War, the White House became a digital fortress. After the Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961, the Situation Room was created to allow the president to directly monitor global crises. Chapter 8. The Modern Era and the 2026 Outlook. In the 21st century, the White House continues to balance its role as a historic landmark with the demands of a modern, high-security workplace. Security. After 9/11, security perimeters were expanded and the fence height was increased to nearly 13 feet. Recent upgrades. In 2023, the Situation Room underwent a complete $50 million renovation. 2026, the 250th anniversary. By February 2026, the White House is preparing for America's semi-quincentennial, 250 years. Recent efforts focus on digital sovereignty, ensuring that the building's technological infrastructure is protected against modern cyber threats while preserving its historic beauty, a legacy that millions of visitors will continue to admire.